Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and thanks to freelance illustrator and designer David White, I'll be taking a look at one of his latest Mecha Zone independent toy creations. This is the Predanaut, one of the two figures that are kicking off the Mecha Zone world on the 6-inch scale, and a design intended to be even more original and standalone than its slightly micromaniacal counterpart, the Mechanaut Soldier version 2. Using a similar process to the one he's used to make several figures that were closer to 2 to 3 inches tall, David White drew up the Predanaut on paper, then rendered that 2D design in a 3D modeling program before sending that model out into the real world via an Affinia H-Series 3D printer. Ignoring all the design time, modeling time, and numerous figure prints that were made to prototype and refine the build quality of the piece, it still takes David White a good 13 hours to print all 42 components of a given Predanaut, followed by a couple more hours of cleanup, acetone vapor bath treatment, assembly, and etc. This is homegrown, artist-driven, 3D printed independent toy production, and I have been viciously curious to see what it's like in hand ever since finding out about Mecha Zone about a week and a half ago as of this recording in mid-August of 2014. The Predanaut is a vicious-looking mechanical biped with sharp-edged feet, straight-up pincer claws, and the head of a friggin' robot wolfman. He looks like a cyborg murder machine with blood ties to battle beasts and 80s cartoon comic robotic technologies. Though to be honest, my favorite parts of his sculpt are all the hydraulics and cables that add an extra layer of hard, raw brutality to the Predanaut's aesthetic. And in case this wasn't clear enough, every single piece of this figure was printed on a sub-$1,500 home 3D printer. While the finer detail areas suffer from a touch of softness, the major edges of each piece are pretty damn crisp, and I had to do some Google investigation to find out how on earth the finish of the plastic came out so smooth and shiny. It's thanks to an acetone vapor bath, a vaguely dangerous treatment that both smooths out the layer cake look of many home 3D printed pieces, and also strengthens the structural integrity of those pieces. This also means that the red, black, and gray pieces of the Predanaut are unpainted and treated plastic. However, David White does do some paint work by adding silver to the head and chest, along with black-lined red optics. All of this is very clean and adds some great punch. Such great punch that I'd love to see what it'd look like to have even more paint added to stuff like the hydraulics and cables. This guy's a 3D printed toy, he's an independent artist toy, and usually those things don't come synonymous with the word articulation. However, the Predanaut does have more than the basic Kenner POA. This guy's got some interesting stuff going on, but I'll start off with the boring thing. His neck swivels. It's literally just like a peg in a peg hole, it swivels on that. But here's where things start to get interesting. He can do this. This is surprisingly fun. I can't quite communicate how fun it is to just have this guy stand around going like, yap, 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 I'm the Predanaut. Yo, y'all, I'm high-end artistic. Yap, yap, get in my mouth. He's actually got a hole in the bottom of his mouth, so him chewing on stuff is entirely for the sake of destruction. His shoulders are where things start to get interesting, because this is a ball socket joint, and it's an interesting design, because it's like there's a ring which is clasping around a ball socket, but there's a hole up here, I think to allow for like a customizable level of tension during the design process, I assume. What this means is this guy's ball socket joints have a really pleasant smoothness and tightness. They don't have like a full huge range going outwards, but there is, you know, more going on here than a simple forward-backward swivel, which is what this thing looks like it could have been originally. You get about 45 degrees out, and you also get a little bit of inward and outward tilt this way, which is in place of the sadly missing bicep swivel. So I think this is a really good start for a ball joint design. It's very functional. I think if this thing could be done in tandem with something internally or something down here, a really robust range of shoulder posability could be achieved with minimal like fiddly parts count. And speaking of a lack of fiddly parts count, this guy's elbows work just like his neck. It's a peg running straight through here, and the elbow bend range is pretty good. It's like straight up 90. His wrists can swivel, because they just peg on here. I believe these are 5mm pegs? Yeah, so this guy's peg and port size is basically a set 5mm, which can come in handy for accessorization and whatnot, because he's got all these ports all over his body, too. He has a straight-up waist swivel. I'm really happy this is here, because I couldn't tell if this was here from the initial pictures I saw. And his hips have the same ball joint design as his shoulders, which like I said, you know, this just achieves a lot more personality than the straight-up swivel, because you not only get the outward movement, but you get, and I think this is almost more important, this tilt, which allows for so much more personality in posing, just being able to tilt the stuff left and right. Given the lack of biceps and thigh swivels, this achieves a lot. Although, I really would love to see bicep and thigh swivels on some future stuff using a similar design like this. I feel like a peg system or a mushroom peg system, it doesn't seem like it would be impossible to pull off in a 3D printer, and I think that would elevate these to just like another level. As for the knees, they work just like the elbows, although the peg isn't as exposed here because there's a part covering the connection, but they have a pretty decent, again, straight up 90-degree bend. And his ankles are ball jointed. These don't seem to use the same design as up here and here, but the range is quite nice. And the only example I've got of a joint getting a little bit loose is this ankle is slightly looser than this one. But as you can see, it still holds its position real well, and it doesn't flop around when I shake him. So, good job. Now, the tension of all these things comes apparently due to the acetone vapor bath treatment, and I was told that the one thing you don't want to do with this figure is pop any of these ball socket joints apart. The exact words I was told were that it would ruin the tension, and you wouldn't be able to achieve the same tension again. I'm guessing that the acetone vapor bath stuff happens in a way that it, like, clasps them down over these a little bit more. I'm not sure. As far as I can tell, though, if you do have anything that gets loose over time, these ball sockets are so huge, you should be able to get a toothpick in there with some floor polish and just, you know, very slowly but safely thicken things up if you do need to do so. But this guy can hold poses pretty well. I'm not sure if I've gotten him standing on one foot before, but we'll see if I can. And, yeah, there we go. He's standing on one foot. Hooray! However, he doesn't even need to be able to do that, because he also comes with a stand. This stand doesn't have the acetone vapor treatment, and you can tell. I mean, it's got like that, as I said before, the kind of crisscrossy, the layer cake look that your usual 3D printed pieces have. It uses a 5mm peg, and you can peg into the bottom of either of the Predanaut's feet. The bottom of the feet also show you, I think, like a little bit of the origins of what exactly is on the bottom of the printing pad, or the printing board. What do you call it? Belt? I'm not sure what the terminology is, but you stick this thing into his foot, and now he's totally got a figure stand going on. Like, check it out. Now he can go totally off kilter and off balance. Hooray! Oh, wait. No. No, he's... Alright, sure. I thought he was going to fall over. He's not falling over. Okay. It's not like he couldn't survive falling over, because, okay, here's the thing. This stuff is 3D printed. All the layers have been strengthened by the acetone vapor bath treatment. However, David White also stress tested these things in development. He gave these things, Predanauts and Mechanauts, to his wife, and said, here, break it. And anything that broke, he fixed on the actual 3D model design and reprinted and tried again. At some point, he gave a Predanaut to a group of children at a party and said, here, play with this. He has definitely gone out of his way to make sure this thing is a piece of toy, as well as a piece of art, or at least the work of an artist, however you want to refer to it. And I don't want to mess up the silver paint up here, because I'm not sure what kind of sealant was used on it. I don't want to scratch it all up. However, the stuff that isn't silver is basically bare plastic. So if we orient the Predanaut into the right position here, I'm going to take this somewhat expensive art toy and give it a good old-fashioned Tetrajet test. Let's give him one more Tetrajet test. Let's set up a target. Here's a Shocker Warrior all going like I'm Iron Man. Well, guess what? Predanaut's bigger than you. So, this thing can take it, man. Like, it's made of ABS plastic. That's the stuff that David White feeds into his Affinia printer. And, the only thing that's weird about this, like, it's beefy. It feels like chunk in hand, but it doesn't weigh like chunk because it's 3D printed, and a lot of these things are panels that are kind of closing into a hollow shape. So it feels a little lightweight. It feels thicker than it weighs, basically, and it's built for play. I think this thing is super cool, and I think the idea of this thing is super cool. And I love that I can actually play with the Predanaut and just have him do things and be all like, it's time for a Predanaut ride or kick. Friggin' shocker, man. Anyway, that's some Predanaut posability. It's not, like, as super posable as a beat-up Shocker Man, but it's way more posable than I thought when I first saw these, and I'm thinking this is just like a cusp of what could evolve into an even more posable and intricate piece of home-printed engineering. The Predanaut is a beefy, lightweight, and durable 6-inch figure with decent posability and a lot of personality. It's also representative of 3D printed toy making outside of Shapeways that I had been hugely ignorant of for the last couple of years. That technology is still growing, though, and comes with a price. The Predanaut runs just shy of $65, and each one is a 15-plus hour endeavor by a one-man operation. 13 of those hours comes from the printing process alone, and hopefully that can go down as the technology continues to advance on a home-operated level. As things stand, it's a somewhat high-end price that still pays a pittance to the time commitment alone, leaving out things like the initial design work or the materials cost. Monetarily speaking, this is definitely in the realm of custom pieces and artistic independent toys, where you've got to be into the very idea of a figure more so than what it can do for you. But, enormously to David White's credit, the Predanaut does not forget the roots of what it aspires to be. It comes from my favorite shade of artistic and independent toy making, the kind of piece that still wants to be a capital T toy when put in the hands of collectors or children alike. The amount of time put into testing and tweaking the design definitely comes out in the final product, and has me way interested in seeing what comes next from Mecha Zone. I mean, I already pre-ordered the Mechanaut, so I guess we'll see soon. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and if you are interested in David White's Mecha Zone stuff, check out his website and Store Envy shop. The Predanauts and Mechanaut V2 soldiers are both in production and available for pre-order as of this recording, with production runs of 8 to 16 pieces apiece. And if you're digging the idea of home-printed independent toys, follow the trail of info that I found on the Mecha Zone site and check out what Prometheum 5 and Brown Noise have been working on as well. Between these independent home-printed efforts and the ever larger catalog of skilled Shapeways pieces, from folks like Ariel Lemon or Wulong Toys or Trent Troop, as well as things like the growing practice of printed prototypes and Hasbro's recent dedicated efforts to be a part of the future of the printed toy scene, it's an exciting time to watch 3D printing as a toy enthusiast. It's also a time where, quite possibly, I've used the word print more times than ever before in a single paragraph.